Jim Jones was broadcast in addition to being cheated on. He was sitting in court like a king one minute. The following time, Cameron simply hit the play button on a USB. Chrissy in a hotel wearing a hoodie and heals a room with another person. Captured on camera uttering the phrases, chuckling and whispering. Jim is still unsure. Let him remain foolish. Have you ever seen the heart of a man depart from his body? Jim remained silent without blinking or breathing. He simply gazed at the TV as if it were his sanity's funeral. There was silence in the courtroom. Mama Jones froze. Cameron grinned as if he had been waiting 10 years for this. This was not an unintentional leak. This impassioned performance was a smash. Chrissy was also aware that the camera was rolling. We now want to know how many more clips Cam has. Was this a long-term scam or love? And how can you get back on your feet when everyone else just watched your life fall apart in 4K? Hold on tight, because Jim Jones isn't going to returning. Jim Jones ended up folded in a courtroom chair with his hands shaking and his spirit halfway out of his body after it began with a USB. There was no grain in the video. She didn't have a maybe moment. It was shot as if someone knew it would eventually be used in court, and it was clear, sharp, and time-stamped. The video Chrissy at 9:13 p.m. Outside the Moran Hotel in Soho, she pulled a hoodie over her head and looked side to side as if the city was observing her every move. Additionally, it was not Jim who opened the door. There was Reggie in that suite. Fans began speculating about the name months ago. That same man, Chrissy, who was connected to a muffled jail call, swore was merely a companion. However, this video wasn't a friendship. In HD, this was a complete betrayal, and as soon as Cameron gave the court clerk that USB, you could sense it. Something changed in the energy. The space grew chilly, and Jim straightened his posture as if he already understood it deep down. However, there are two types of pain, seeing and knowing. Because Chrissy muttered into her phone as she entered the hotel room, turned back to face the hallway and said, "Jim still believes I'm at my cousin's. He's quite laid back." The courtroom erupted. Tension, but not loud, not with sound. Like a man who had been waiting 10 years for karma to pay him, Cam reclined in his chair. Jim sat as if his bones had melted. Silence, no utterance, no rant. Glassed eyes and slow breathing were followed by a quick intake of breath and a fall. The courtroom exploded as he placed one hand on his chest and slung the other arm from the chair. Baifs hurried in. They called for EMTs. Chrissy sat quietly as if she was viewing a scenario that she had seen 100 times before. Cam remained motionless, unflinching and unblinking. And that was only the clip's opening 37 seconds. Because what happened next? At that point, the lies, silence, and ride-or-die narrative they had created for reality TV were exposed. The video cuts to the interior of the room. 2 glasses of wine are present and the speaker is playing a playlist. Deliberate, slow, and sensual. Chrissy, on the other hand, is chuckling softly. She's stating, "This is where I breathe. With you, I don't feel like I'm suffocating in someone else's life." Jim used to sit on 3. Chrissy is referred to in many podcasts as his oxygen day 1, and the reason I survived. She is now telling him that she felt dead inside of him. Chrissy knew about the camera, according to insiders. A buddy of Reggie's who always kept a record for security owned the suite. However, Chrissy was surprised that Cameron would wind up with that video. It's still unclear how he obtained it. Some claim there was someone inside Cam. Others think that after Chrissy abandoned him last month, Reggie lost it. But in the end, Cameron had proof, the one thing no one believed existed. It wasn't just any proof either. It was irrefutable, scandalous, and devastating to the heart. According to court records, Cam turned in the USB as part of a defamation counter lawsuit against Jim, alleging that during a 2022 VH1 production meeting, Jim attempted to defame him. However, this was not a court case, legal or not. Retaliation was at issue here. He didn't just serve it cold either, Cam. He presented it to Jim's mother. Mama Jones was in court after all. When Jim fell to the ground, security believed she was going to attack Chrissy since she got up so quickly. She yelled, "You lied to my son. You used him," and was then led away. TMZ observed her pacing the outside, shouting into her phone on the sidewalk. In the meantime, the judge had to say, This is why I never trusted that woman. I told Jim day one she'd ruin him. Halt the trial for a full hour while Jim's vitals were monitored by EMTs, who verified that he had not experienced a heart attack. Just a collapse brought on by trauma. The internet? Yes, it blew up in music seconds. A clip from Chrissy's hotel. Cameron came out. Neem Jones passes out. Every trending 20 minutes after the leak. And the vicious memes. One captioned, "Bro got folded like the sheets Chrissy left in," and featured Jim's face on a mattress. That motel. Another had Cameron grinning like Thanos while he held the USB, the final Infinity Stone. However, this was more than just a Twitter feud because as the court started, the DA halted the trial once more and drew the judge away after the entire 4-minute tape had finished. Why? Because the video was more than just proof of adultery. It is said to indicate a potential obstruction of justice. As you can see, the court was already looking into Chrissy in connection with a closed charity fraud case. Additionally, she mentions in the hotel video, "Reggie helped me tidy up that mess. I informed them that it was a contribution. This means that there may be additional fees." And today, what began as a heartbreak on reality TV has turned into a possible federal case. Cam wasn't finished either, because Cam got up, turned to face Jim and remarked, "I told you she wasn't loyal," right before the court ruled for recess. Jim remained still and merely stared straight ahead, as if the entire world had turned to static. "I just gave you what you needed to heal," as well as Chrissy. She murmured something to her lawyer as she leaned over. She added, "Tell the judge I was drunk." That clip is out of context, according to a courtroom librarian who was seated 3 seats behind her. It was 4K multi-angle with audio, so it's out of context, girl. However, we're only beginning because Cam's legal team says they will file 2 more when the court reconvenes next week. Video and Chrissy's voicemail to Mona Scott that was leaked. And Jim Jones won't be the only one who loses everything if even half of the rumors on that call turn out to be accurate. The whole VH1 will be involved, franchise that burns to the ground. When recess finished, the courtroom was still humming, but no one was prepared for what was about to happen. Because the hotel was just letting everyone recover their breath. Suddenly, Cameron's attorney sprang to his feet and uttered 7 words that stopped the judge in his tracks. "We have an audio file and more video." The murmurs reverberated through the throng like a tsunami of mistrust. Chrissy went white. Jim didn't even raise his head. Additionally, Mama Jones needed to be forcefully restrained in order to return to the courtroom. Leaning forward, the judge sought clarification. Calm, icy, and surgical as Cam's lawyer. The voicemail below was left by 3 weeks prior to the recording of the tape. Ms. Lampkin was on Mona Scott Young's phone. This was suddenly more than a scandal involving cheating. This was going to turn into a conspiracy to end a franchise. In 10 seconds, the clerk's jaw fell as she played the voicemail. Chrissy's tone was very obvious. "I warned you, Mona, that if Jim finds out, the entire season's ruined. Cam is also unable to know. He'll make advantage of it. Take care of that room footage for me. It was deleted," Reggie vowed. "You made a pledge. Take care of the video. Call it season-destroying and tell Mona to put it in the trash. This was a nuclear bomb with a smoking pistol inside." The audio was paused by the tree judge. Chrissy's attorney sprang up in a panic and protested. However, it was too late. The court has heard enough. Additionally, Cam was no longer even grinning. That message wasn't the only evidence that Chrissy had cheated, so he was locked in. It demonstrated that she sought to remove it with assistance from the top, since she knew she would be caught. Cover-up was required. In an ongoing inquiry, that implied manipulation and potentially intervention. Now, even the baifs appeared shaken. At last, Jim raised his head, his eyes lifeless, and he looked straight at Chrissy as if he had forgotten who she was. Like the lady he battled with, wept over on red carpets, and bought rings for there were never even producers to defend. The second tape then began. The hotel did not provide this one. It was captured from within a trailer on the Love and Hip Hop New York set, leaked covertly from an unidentified crew member months prior. During what was meant to be a day off, the video showed Chrissy chatting with Yandy behind the scenes. But it wasn't casual. Regarding this discussion, Chrissy remarked, "I'm not stupid. I know Jim is devoted, but loyalty doesn't make me feel less bored. Mona understands that Reggie makes me feel something. Yandi's response, "Girl, you're playing with fire. You know Cam hates him? I'm out if this leaks." The audience was no longer merely witnessing infidelity, so that tape struck a different chord. You are caught. It's not just a scandal. It's war. They were observing technique, as if the entire Chrissy and Jim affair was a shrewd brand rather than a genuine bond. And to make matters worse, it revealed Mona. Because social media was in a complete breakdown by now, and if producers knew about this months ago and still recorded the engagement special and pushed the lifelong love narrative, then what else had they faked? Fans were switching sides in real time, blogs were ablaze, and Chrissy's name was trending with Mama Jones, liability, and Judas in Lubbock Towns. She cried, "That woman ruined my son's life." So as she eventually made it past security and rushed into the corridor outside the court, where TMZ cameras were waiting, she is I want VH1 to burn with her serpent. Security attempted to intervene, but the damage was done. And within minutes, the video went viral, with one TikTok even stitching, "When your mom was right the whole time," was the description for the hotel video featuring Mama Jones's tirade. However, things took a turn for the worse again in court because, following the playback of the audio in the second clip, this is an email sent from Chrissy's account requesting footage deletion from a private server tied to Cam's account. Cam's attorney remarked as he stood up again, clutching a printed email, a screenshot, and a paper trail. The media cloud of Mona Scott. The judge said, "Read the email," and the chamber fell silent once more. Chrissy began to shake her hands. "I need that room wiped by Monday," she allegedly wrote. "Jim won't get better if it escapes. The show won't either. Tell Reggie to hold on to his keep your mouth shut." Jim got to his feet, realizing that this was more than just cheating. It was manipulation, a failed media hit job. Trembling, he glanced at Chrissy and murmured, "Is any of this real?" Chrissy's lips trembled. She glanced down, trembling, and said nothing. That silence? It was louder than any confession because perhaps something would have remained if she had said yes. However, that quiet was the solution. Cameron didn't win. This wasn't merely retaliation. It was surgical disassembly. "That's right. The network was now involved," the judge said, pausing proceedings once more. This time due to a surprise request from VH1's legal team to address the court rather than chaos. "We believe some of this footage was unlawfully obtained, and its release may violate confidentiality clauses within existing agreements," said their representative, a man in a gray suit who was perspiring through his collar. Agreements. As a result of Cam blowing up their golden pair, exposing producer manipulation, and revealing that the whole love narrative was a ticking time bomb, they were in a panic. The judge, however, had no interest in preserving TV deals and turned to face Chrissy, asking, "Did you try to obstruct this court's investigation by suppressing the media or misdirection?" Chrissy stuttered. Her lawyer objected. The judge pressed on, and that's when her voice cracked. "I had no intention of things going this far. I simply felt afraid." "But what are you afraid of? Of losing Jim? Of being revealed? Of observing the deception come to light?" The court had one more surprise, and it's too late now. Cam's team subpoenaed a burner phone from which a text log from Reggie was revealed. It was a letter from Reggie to a friend. "She also played me. Declared she would leave him. Cam got the drop, and now I'm the bad guy. I ought to have removed the remaining clips." "Please don't," she pleaded. The rest indeed. This implied that there were more. When the day was over, Jim walked, leaving that courtroom with a ghostly appearance. No security, no Mona, no Chrissy by his side, just him. A single guy bearing the burden of an unfulfilled love and a betrayal of the entire globe, watched in real time. A reporter outside asked Cam one last question. "Jim deserved this, in your opinion?" Cam examined the lens. He replied, "No. However, there are instances when the truth doesn't care who it hurts." He left after saying that, due to the fact that in this game of despite cameras, love, and commitment, only one guy emerged from the courtroom victorious. Even worse, it hasn't ended yet. The following morning, the video had already appeared on all American screens. Faster than Chrissy could grab her PR, clips were stitched, remixed, slowed down, manipulated with depressing music, and made into memes. The expression on Jim Jones's frozen "this face of betrayal" had come to represent humiliation as much as sadness. One thing was evident despite the online division among fans. The misunderstanding angle was not being taken seriously. No longer. This was not an unfounded rumor. The entire operation was made public. People were rewatching the romance by bringing up past interviews, tweets, and sequences from previous seasons. Fresh eyes and recognizing the warning signs in high definition. A video even came back to show Mama Jones telling Chrissy directly, "You don't love my son? You love the camera." The quote was now on t-shirts, but there was still more to the court. Not even close, because the legal problem was louder than the emotional destruction. The internal emails of VH1 were abruptly subpoenaed following the filing of an emergency motion by Cameron's legal team. Why? Because Chrissy was slipping off with a man who used to work on post-production, Reggie. And you know who approved of video modifications for the spin-off of Chrissy and Jim? Yes, Reggie. That led to a huge investigation into fraud. If producers changed plots, concealed genuine drama, and edited video to maintain a brand, which isn't only dubious, civil fraud is what that is. Sponsors began to withdraw if it impacted contracts, ad income, or misrepresenting cast members. Production ceased. Temporarily down and in the middle of herring, Mona Scott Young unfollowed Chrissy. When Mona stops using the script, you know something is wrong. However, this is the point at which nobody can anticipate it. The attorney for Jim Jones filed a motion to sue Chrissy for financial sabotage and mental suffering. Take a moment to process that. After being her for years, Jim, her companion both on and off screen, her defender, was now legally turning against her. The papers weren't light either. Among them were canceled appearances, lost brand deals, and the most damning, most importantly, uncut video that Jim had consented to shoot for a Netflix documentary series. Footage that, due to the scandal, would never be broadcast. $2 is the estimated loss. $3 million? And it doesn't even include what happened next. Chrissy's own ex appeared out of nowhere. Marcus, a man purportedly from her past, performed an exclusive. According to a gossip website, Chrissy always had a fallback plan. The endgame was never Jim, the exposure was him. He even displayed voicemails and texts. Chrissy the architect went viral after supposedly saying, "Jim's career is cute, but I'm trying to build mine." Internet combustion bloggers went crazy. Cameron was just warming up because he had released a preview for his own documentary, while the court was considering motions and sealing evidence. A 30-second video that was shared on Instagram with the teaser black screen with the text, "You saw the courtroom. Now see the full truth. Coming soon." The voice of Chrissy murmuring, "If this gets out, Jim's going to leave me. Don't let Cam find out," then boom. Cut to Cameron's face saying, "I found out." Jim didn't remark on that video, but his mother did. Mama Jones went live that evening, pacing her living room and restraining herself. The video received 5 million views in 4 hours. She spoke with anger and sorrow, saying, "You break my son. You shatter me. You were family, Chrissy. I referred to you as my daughter. Look at what you did now. The devil was wearing a pink coat when you let him in." It was more than just shade. It was war. And she fell silent, Chrissy. Just one Instagram story with white text on a black background. No apology or remark. Sometimes the only response they deserve is silence. It's too late. Because when the world isn't yelling, stillness is effective. By day 4, the judge was no longer acting as a mediator when the court reconvened. New evidence had come to light, and it came from an unexpected source, which infuriated him. Olivia, indeed. Olivia Longot. A previous cast member, a sworn affidavit was submitted by a member. Former singer and lifelong silent spectator. In 2022, she said, she saw Chrissy and Reggie together in a hotel lobby, holding hands and bickering about remaining silent. "That wasn't just betrayal," she said. Chrissy remarked to her, quote, "I'm only doing what Mona won't. Jim's too blind to see I'm not built for forever." Was deliberate deception. This is where things went crazy. VH1 attempted to prevent the video from airing any further, sent bloggers cease and desist letters, and attempted to. However, the internet never forgets. Cameron wasn't afraid. He went live, grinning, and even filed temporary injunctions to halt the documentary he hinted about. "Let them try," he said while drinking. "The truth has already been revealed. This is no longer their story, I own it." Jim, meantime, quit attending court because he could no longer stand it, not because he didn't care. His team issued a brief statement. During this time, Mr. Jones is concentrating on his mental health and requests seclusion. Suddenly, the victim and the culprit switched places. Locations since Jim went from rapper to wreck and Chrissy from fiancé to defendant. And now that the show has been canceled, the legal battles are going on, and the fans are calling for accountability. There is only one thing that undoubtedly, this scandal destroyed a franchise, a brand, and more than just a relationship. It dragged, the one admirer wrote, it best, revealing what truly occurs when love turns into a product and loyalty into leverage. Hip-hop and love were never real. However, this suffering, this consequence, this silence is more genuine than anything that was ever seen. And you know what? They're accurate. Only the actual harm is left behind after the edits cease and the smoke clears. The sort that plays repeatedly whenever someone types Chrissy, the kind that doesn't fade in the following episode, and the kind that doesn't cut to commercial. The question of whether it was worth it, the hotel secret, the camera lying, Jim's career crushed under the weight of betrayal, plays repeatedly in his mind as he uploads the hotel tape to YouTube. Silence. And for Chrissy, it's already in the video because, despite their best efforts to conceal it, spin it, or rewrite it, everyone witnessed it and nobody is turning away. What will happen now that the mask is off, the cameras are off, and the truth is completely visible? Will Jim Jones leave behind the celebrity, the suffering, the betrayal, and ultimately Chrissy disappears into solitude, believing that time will heal him in a way that apologies cannot? And Cameron? Is this a one-time retribution drop, or does he have more in store? The vault? Because, let's face it, if this was only one clip, what else might be concealed in those files? This was definitely not another instance of love in hip-hop. The collapse of a reality TV empire due to the weight of receipts, secrets, and a USB drive that caused more harm than 1,000 fists ever could was a full-blown takedown. What you should do? Leave a comment with your opinions. Who do you blame or believe? And most importantly, who's next? Because if this story has taught us anything, it's that when the truth comes out, nobody is safe. If this made you feel attached, be sure to hit the like button. Turn on notifications because the true drama no longer occurs on television, and subscribe so you don't miss the next bombshell. Trust me, it's coming. The truth doesn't get cut out here, and this is only the beginning. If you're still watching, you're already a part of the narrative.